Wow, it seems like the music has gone. Well, why has that happened? That's what happens when I don't stream for a week. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Tonight, there is loads to talk about. I skipped just 1 week and all of this stuff happens. Tonight, we're going to be talking a bit about the Antigravity A1 launch, which is in just a few days. We're then also going to talk about a couple of subjects relating to DJI. The ban, the infamous ban, is getting closer. But we're also going to talk about a new product that has sneaked through in the FCC filings from DJI. We are going to be talking about HDZero and the fact that they have not only released an NDAA compliant HDMI input VTX, they are about to release a remote controller, and they have released a battery box for their FPV and any other goggle on the market as well. We are also going to talk about the fact that TBS have released a range of drone can accessories. So TBS are jumping into the drone can world at full hump. It's a strange choice of word. And we're going to talk about anything else that has come up along the way as well, including some of the stuff that I've got here on the bench, because there's a lot turned up this week. There's a lot of stuff here I've been working through. Now, obviously, I didn't go live last Sunday, and there are a few reasons for that. I wasn't feeling particularly well, and my mood was in such a place that whilst it may have made a damn good live stream, it probably wouldn't have done me any favours. So I decided that it was probably best to stay clear last weekend as a result of that. But what it has done is given me a bit of a break to catch up on some stuff. You might have seen this week I've managed to put out a video I've been holding on to for a little bit, which is the 360 video, and I've been waiting to launch that video just before the drones come out, because obviously we're about to enter a new world, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I've just published the tuning video for this piece of shit, and that's gone up. That was a video I filmed weeks ago and I hadn't published. And I wasn't going to publish, then I was going to publish, and then I wasn't, and then I was. Although after taking a number of pieces of advice, I now have a stance of where I'm at with that fucking company there. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And I'm also going to talk a bit, obviously, because this week we saw the release of this thing, which I'd been sitting on. Why? Focus. Come on, camera. We released this, and this is a nice little radio. Honestly, the quality in this thing, this is so solid. Honestly, this radio. And what's quite funny is people keep asking me, what is it like compared to this piece of plastic shit? And I'm like, really? You're asking me that? So we're going to be answering that question in a minute. I have just finished the review on this, the PA01, and honestly, what a radio this is. This is, without doubt, the best radio in this class. What a handset this is, honestly. This is a phenomenal radio from a brand I wouldn't have even considered buying a radio from. The PA01, genuinely the best radio in this size class that exists today. For me, it's this, probably a TX15. That's the two radios you should buy in my head now. Honestly, what a radio. Just such a side move from nowhere. So the review of that is going live in a couple of days. So yeah, we're going to, someone swapped in his tea for coffee. I'm going to talk about that. And then we've also got things like this that has arrived this week. For those who don't know what this is, what a cool little quad this is as well. The Wally FPV Eagle 2. What a nice, sorry, my face tracking is kicking in. That is a really cool quad. DJI 04. And I've also got some lens kits from It's FPV, and I've got the Flywoo wide angle kit for 04 as well. So there's just been so much going on in the last couple of weeks. It's crazy. Now, the first thing I want to touch on today is we're going to talk about the anti-gravity, and I want to get that out of the way because it's quite a short subject, but we're going to talk about it first of all. So obviously this week, and we're going to go to the desktop, ta-da! This is finally about to launch, and I'm going to say now, I am highly surprised this is launched so quick. There's lots of footage of this creeping around the internet as well if you go looking for it. But I am shocked they are getting this out as quick as they are. It's coming on the 4th of December. I sincerely hope this is available to buy in the UK because I will be ordering it on the 4th of December. We still know so little about this drone at this moment in time. We still don't have FCC filings, so I can't dig into the RF side of it yet. We still don't really know how well it performs, but it's coming. However, I did put a warning video out, and that warning video isn't specific to this drone. That warning video is very much about 360 drones and cameras, because I think a lot of people may fall into the trap with this, and I discussed this in the video, and a lot of people get disappointed when they first see a 360 camera and the image and they go, oh my god, it's terrible. It's not that it's terrible. Your field of view is massive and you're having to crop in to get the view, as you do on the Osmo 360, X5, X4, all of the Insta cameras. It is the inherent nature of a 360 camera. However, what we don't know is how much enhancement there is going on with the additional lenses on the front, the additional sensors. How much are they going to be really bringing in? We don't know. Anti-gravity seem to be doing it different to DJI. It appears the DJI is rotating the front camera, so it looks like there's a double 360 lens and it's able to rotate it forward for forward view and rotate it up, although you're still going to have the same problem of that 180-degree fisheye lens being a problem. That is still going to be the case unless you get to something like having some massive 8K, 12K sensor. It's still going to be a problem. What I would say is accept it for what it's going to be as a 360 drone, but if you're going to run out and buy this and think, oh, it's going to give me great image quality like my DJI Mini 5 Pro, Mini 4 Pro, I think you might be a bit disappointed. What we don't know, though, yet is how close it will be to them. But that's my warning. Accept it for what it is. There is, though, a lot of footage appearing online of this now. It's certainly not a big secret. The anti-gravity, you know, if you go to YouTube and do a dig, there's footage appearing every day. If you search for anti-gravity A1, and then you start to filter by upload date, you start to see footage appear. You've got to weed through the people talking about it like me, but you do start to find videos like this appear, and there's one I saw in Spain which was quite good. Let me just find it. I want to show you it. Like this is 3 days ago. Look, people are showing stuff. But there is footage out there. I just want to find this Spanish one I found. See, look at this 8K 30 test footage. So this is from 5 days ago. This is real footage from the drone. So there is footage out there, and I watched this one, and it, you know, you obviously see the fisheye effect. I also have noticed a bit of jello in the footage as well. In a lot of videos. A lot of jello appearing. Yeah, don't tell me about all the verticals. I know, there's so many vertical videos. So many. I'd like to find the one I saw the other day, because there's one I saw which is quite good. See, there's another one 7 days ago. How long is this? Let's mute. And there's one do you see that twitch again then? There is a stitch line. I have seen a stitch line in some of this footage. There is definitely a stitch line. Some of it doesn't look like this, doesn't look particularly great. But there's one which I thought, ooh. But some cool stuff, let's be honest. But there isn't a lot of detail in that at all. This one. This is the one I saw the other day. But is this like he has 2 videos of this, and one has terrible quality and one looks really good, because this is the 360 one. So that gentleman, let me just find him. He has 2 videos. There we go. So this is the other one that I've seen. Okay. And the one thing you start to see very quickly is the detail falls off. And I don't think this is going to be specific to the Insta. Whatever DJI are going to do on theirs, it's going to be the same. Again, you're going to see a big difference. Also notice, and I spotted this on this one, lens flare off the fisheye lens. It's up here, and you see it moving about with the sun. Just watch there as I move along. You'll see that lens flare. Look at that. Reflections off the inside of the lens. That's going to be a problem for people as well, because it happens on 360 cameras. You will also see the stitch line in this video in a minute. I spotted it in here before. I don't know how the upload has been done, so I can't comment on if it's a good upload or a bad upload. I'm going to put that in 4K. Let's have a look at what it looks like in 4K. It looks better in 4K, that's for sure. There, right? Also notice, there, look at that haze appearing in that top. Again, is that the stitch line, or is that haze or reflections off the internal lens? I might drop it down to 1440 because I'm streaming as well. So there are definitely some compromises you're going to find. What I have seen in a lot of the footage is stutters, which is a little bit concerning. Yeah, it does, Lon. Funny you said that. This has a bit of a weird color grade to it, this one. I don't really get it. There's also a lot of noise in this one as well. Did you see that there? I think he's on the stitch line. Look at that. Right there. I think he's on the stitch line. And you saw a wobble on the footage as he moved across. So, yeah, I think there's definitely some quirkiness to be had. What I wish I could find is there is also a vertical video, right, where the guy also shows the goggles view. Here it is, this one. So this one, he is testing the anti-gravity transmission. And this is one of the first times I've seen footage from the goggles. So this guy is saying how far it flies, which it isn't that far. But what you do see on this video for the first time, look, is the goggles view. You'll see him as he moves through. So let me get it to where it is. Here we go. So here you're seeing the OSD for the first time and that 360 look around in the goggles. You actually saw him looking around. So he's lost signal there. So yeah, where is it? You don't see it for long, but you do see it there. And he's looking around. So that is cool. That is very cool. So, look, it's due to launch in 4 days. We don't really know much more than that. Obviously, we also have the Osmo. No, let me rephrase. We also have the Avata 360 around the corner as well. Don't know a release date. Don't know when. Right now, I'm not seeing anything special. You know, the Avata 360 in some ways is a bit of a... It's interesting, but it's also slightly boring. We've got the FCC filings. We know it's the same RF system. There's no new magic source in OcuSync, so it's using 04, the same as the Avata 2. So where the new stuff is going to be the 360 and what you see with the Goggles 3. We haven't seen a new set of goggles yet. However, there is a new product coming from DJI that literally dropped on the FCC reports yesterday, and we don't know what that is, and I'll talk about that in a second. But in many ways, the Antigravity is a little bit more interesting because it's a whole new product, a whole new brand. Sub 250 grams, they say. So, look, let's wait and see. More than anything, what I would just like to say is, if you're not experienced with 360 cameras, be aware of 2 major factors. Number 1, the fact of the image quality will not be the same as a standard camera drone. And number 2, editing of that footage is going to be horrific. It is horrific. Now, one big advantage Insta have with the Antigravity is their software is very good. One major problem DJI have with the Avata 360 is, frankly, DJI Studio is complete and utter junk and is unfit for purpose. If DJI launch the Avata 360 with all of the problems that there is still today in DJI Studio, it's a dead-end product that I wouldn't recommend anyone buy. That software is so bad, I would not recommend you buy the Avata 360 as a result of DJI Studio. It is that bad. That software is horrific. DJI Remote Tracker for Neo 2. Have you got a picture? Because that could make sense. Does make sense, but doesn't make sense. Because why would the remote tracker have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and GPS, and OcuSync? But it somewhat does make sense because it's only got 500 milliwatts of power. But let's see. The name also doesn't make sense though. But yeah, today the DJI Studio is a complete fail, and so much so I would sit here today, and if I had both on the table, I couldn't recommend the DJI, no matter how good it is, as a result of how bad DJI Studio is. DJI Studio on PC is a joke how bad it is. That's the case. So until DJI fix DJI Studio, the Avata 360 is a dead product. And that's just how it is. And I would then say, as long as the image quality is on par, go with the Insta360. Because they have to fix that app. Honestly, it's unusable. It's that bad. I don't understand how not one of the original reviewers called DJI out for it. I cannot get my head around how that has been allowed by all of the people, KOLs, going, yeah, this is great, blah, blah, blah. The fucking software is a joke. It's an absolute joke. It really is. And I'm not talking about missing functionality. It doesn't work. It crashes continuously. It does not do the minimum function of allow you easily to export your footage. Insta have the software suite. Yeah, Insta 360 Studio is great. It is genuinely great. DJI's problem is this: whatever they've done with it's all based on the codec. Something is wrong with DJI Studio on the PC, how it interacts with your GPU. That is the problem. It is fundamentally broken. It really, really is. So, obviously, we have that. And then there is something new coming from DJI, which landed a little bit unexpectedly. This week, FCC notifications appeared for something called the Lito X1. And this is a really odd name from DJI. For starters, it is a double barrel name, and that is a very, very unusual thing for DJI. They often might call something like the Inspire 2 Pro. But Lito X1, the only thing I can call an X1, I can think of like an X1, is the drone, the X1 Pro Max from Hover. It's a very strange name. So there is something new, and we have the FCC label, and I've also done all of the digging into the FCC report already. And this is a very strange product, and I can't quite get my head around what it is. First of all, look at the input. That is basically certain USB voltage ranges. Okay? Secondly, the Lito X1 has 04, but it only has 2 antennas, and it only has up to 500 milliwatts of RF output, and it doesn't appear to support MIMO. It has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, and it has GPS. I hope for a new ear unit. It's not an ear unit. This is not, DJI wouldn't call it an ear unit. It appears to be some FPV-ish related, drone related product, but it isn't crystal clear exactly what. My bets would be maybe some cheap drone to sit below the Neo 2. The way it's only got 2 antennas for OcuSync, the way they don't talk about MIMO, makes me think it's some low-end product. I also wondered if it was something like a set of goggles, but the name doesn't add up. Someone just said about this being a tracker for the Neo 2. The name doesn't make sense. I think they would just call it the DJI Neo Tracker. Lito is a new product name, clearly. And the Lito X1, it's a very unusual naming scheme from DJI. Genuinely, very, very unusual. Beacon, it doesn't make sense for the naming. Why would you call it Lito X1 as a Beaco? It's an entire new product category name. Anything like an accessory would fall under the accessory. I don't know. I just don't know. It's a very odd one. That I can tell you. Yeah, it's funny you say that, TS13. I was thinking a bit of a Tello on steroids. See, DJI have pushed the Avata 2 up. They've pushed the Neo up. And they never replaced the Tello. So could this be something in between? I think, look, it won't be a whoop. Look, stop thinking FPV. Think more $150, $200 drones they can sell to consumers, not FPV. It does, though, appear to have GFSK, and it's got 04, so it could be used with the Love Toy by the look of it, and it could be used with goggles, but it could just be normal 04, by the way, just like a normal remote controller. It isn't clear. It's a weird product. In some ways, the Beacon makes sense, but the naming doesn't. Why would you call it Lito? Lito, I don't know. There's something weird about it. But look, it's coming. It's new. It's brand new, whatever it is. And it's coming. You know, little, yeah. You know, like DJI has a gap at the low end. The 500 milliwatts of RF power as well. See? Makes me wonder. Yeah, but it's got GPS. It's got 04. Look, it looks like a standalone product. But who knows? So look, it's coming. We know about it. We just don't know what it is. What we don't know have yet is any FCC filings for the Insta. Obviously, it is listed up on Best Buy. At $2,000. I think that is I think that's a placeholder price. So at the moment on Best Buy, they have it up at $2,000. I guess that's a placeholder price. I do think though, I do think it could be $1,200 to $1,400. If you wanted me to put money, I'm going to say $12,999 is what I think this will be. I think it'll be a hard push to get this below $1,000. If I'm honest, let's see. I could be wrong. They could blow us all away. But I think with the kit, I think you're going to be talking $1,200, $1,300, maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. I don't think you're talking that sub 1,000. I think is a big ask for this. Genuinely, I think sub 1,000 is a big ask. If they do it, I'd be more worried about what they've cut out. Looks like a drone according to Igor for the X1. There's another. Is there another pic leaked from Igor? Is there? I've missed. I haven't seen the other pic. I commented on the first post. Ah, there you go. Now, there is a theory someone had, and I wonder, yeah, that definitely looks like a drone arm. Looks cheap as well. So, a little while ago, one of the... Is it Sky Drone X1? Sky Rover X1. So, a little while ago, remember, this appeared. One of the clones of DJI. Remember, based on 04, it's basically a Mini... I think it's the Mini 4, not the Mini 5, isn't it? I can't quite remember. I think it's the Mini 4. Anyway, Sky Rover also have the S1. However, the S1 isn't one of the existing DJI drones. This is slightly something else, cheaper. And I wonder if this could be what the Lito is. Because this doesn't exist as a DJI drone. So it could be this. If this was based on DJI. And it could... So it might not be anything interesting after all. Unfortunately, I haven't really been able to find the FCC filings of this damn thing to be able to look at. Yeah, look at that arm. That arm isn't... If we just look a minute, though, right? I'm not going to say it's the same. Here's a picture. But it does look cheap, doesn't it? And if we go back to IGO... That does look a very cheap arm. A very cheap arm. It's weird. Look at that double in there. Motor mount. Weird. So look. That's where we're at with DJI. Now, finally, just to upset Vic Moss, I just want to talk quickly about the current DJI situation. So obviously we are getting closer to the end of the year. Loads of people are putting out videos on this right now. I'm not putting out a video on it dedicated. I might cut this clip and shove it out. Look, the current situation with DJI is, as Vic Moss quite rightly says, and if you haven't seen Vic's video, it's worth a look. No one knows facts. There are no facts. All we know right now is DJI. We don't even know. We don't believe DJI has been audited, and if they have been audited, no one's told anyone, and DJI certainly don't know about it. 23rd of December, basically there'll be no more FCC certifications. Now, as Vic said, there is all of this stuff going around Facebook that is DJI going to cancel my drone? Are they going to ban my drone? Are they going to block me from flying? I don't know how to say this without shouting stupid down the camera. But the basics are, there is no world that exists in the multiverse where DJI will stop you flying your drone regardless of what the US government decides. There is no world outside of a out-and-out critical safety issue where DJI will block you from flying your drone. In fact, DJI have basically removed all NFCs from their products everywhere. DJI going the other way. They're pulling away restrictions, not giving more. Anyone who sits there and thinks, what if DJI stopped me from flying my drone? I don't know how I can help you, but the very fact that that thought is in your head worries me. There is no world, not a single minuscule possibility that DJI is ever going to stop you flying your drone. Now, if the FCC ban happens and they end up on the entities list, new products will not be able to be certified. That means what you have will still fly the same way it has before. What you have is still legally certified. Nothing has changed. If the FCC use these new powers that they've introduced, they now have the option to say, hey, actually, we're going to withdraw that certification that we've given people. That would A, be unprecedented, B, it's never happened before, and even if it does happen, your drone will still work. DJI are not going to block you. Your product is still the same. It would be illegal to fly it, but does that stop anyone flying FPV with more power? Does that stop anyone flying beyond visual line of sight or breaking any other rule that exists out there? From a product perspective, it is as certified from a technical perspective as it was the day before. Just because an FCC certification is withdrawn doesn't mean it's going to cause interference with any other products, doesn't mean it's going to stop working, doesn't mean it's any more dangerous, difficult or wrong to use than it was before, other than the fact you would be non-compliant with legislation. However, if you are someone who has flown any form of drone with hacks, FCC, beyond FCC power, change the antenna on your remote controller, goggles or drone, done anything, including fitting a sticker on the drone to change its weight, anything you have done basically null and voids all of its certification anyway, so nothing changes. Obviously, you will have to make the decision if you wish to use a drone that is technically no longer legally allowed to be used from an RF perspective. Remember, this is about RF, not flights. It will not be illegal to fly your drone, even if the worst case happened and they retroactively withdrew the certification for every former DJI product. It would not be illegal to fly. It would be non-compliant from an RF regulation perspective. Remember, FCC is about RF regulations. It would be the fact that the radio isn't certified anymore. That doesn't mean the radio doesn't meet the requirements of certification, and it doesn't mean it is going to cause any more problems than it did before. All it means is that the certification that it was compliant have been withdrawn, but that doesn't mean the compliance has changed. Yes, it means it isn't legal to bring into the country. Yes, it means it isn't legal to use, but that means you wouldn't be legally allowed to even turn it on. It's not even about flying. The second the RF baseband in that transmits, it is uncompliant. But it doesn't change the fact that it hasn't changed. Again, no. There is no world where DJI is going to stop you flying your drone. They can't even stop you flying your drone if it's offline. I don't know where people even think they could. Anyone could. Samsung could block your phone. Apple could block your phone. Google could disable every copy of Android that has ever been shipped on a phone. Microsoft could decide tomorrow to shut down every single version of Windows that has ever shipped. All of these things are possible. None of these things are likely. There is no more likeliness that DJI is going to shut down your drone than Apple tomorrow deciding to shut down every iPhone ever sold. There is literally zero logic in this argument that DJI could turn you off. It's bollocks, and it needs to be stomped out, because I keep seeing this bullshit being peddled around the internet about DJI gonna shut this down. They're gonna shut that. They're not gonna fucking do it. There is no world where it is ever going to happen. Calm. Calm. Honestly, it just get this whole just thing. So, look, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So, it's just madness. Okay, so that's where we're at with DJI. That's where we're at with Antigravity. I hope they release this drone in the EU. I hope they release this drone in the EU. I hope it's not 1,300 quid as well. I'd like it to be. It's going to cost me money. Antigravity never responded to my request to review. Who'd have thought? I wonder what they've got to hide. Oh, I've run out of disk space. Okay, don't matter. So, yeah. From an illegal to use, it's the RF perspective. If it's any product that isn't FCC certified is illegal to use, technically. It doesn't mean it's not safe, though. So, right. Next thing I want to talk about, my next rant that I want to go on, and I want to record this, so let me just delete something so I can carry on recording this stream, because I want to upload this and I don't want to have to do it from YouTube. So 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, because I have filled up my live drive. Is it Scratch Disk 3 or is it this one? Or is it this one? Lives, yeah. Let me just delete a few of these so I can carry on recording. I do a recording of the live stream. How much space is on this disk now? Might need to kill a few more. Told it to skip a bunch of okay, we should be good. Properties, yeah, 700, 200 gig free. There we go. I can start recording again. Haha, there we go. We're back. Right. The next thing, I'm going to go full screen. The next thing I want to talk about is these, because this week I did a review on the 8TL. No, I've done it again. I had to pull my video down for that. I keep calling this the 8TL. Something I just want to quickly talk about is this. Radiomaster released the T8L this week. And one of the questions I've got from a bunch of people is, hey, should I consider buying this, a radio from a This week, Radiomaster released this, the Radiomaster T8L. Now, after my review went live, after making a few mistakes I may add, I got a number of questions asking me, should I buy this, or instead, should I consider this from Cadex? Now, this is quite interesting in the sense of, whilst on paper these radios may look quite similar, there is one fundamental difference that you do need to take into account. First of all, this, the T8L, is made by Radiomaster, a brand who is well respected, well known in FPV for making radios, and this is made by Cadex FPV, a brand that I no longer recommend you buy products from on this channel, who have been more than once found to be, let's just say, a little bit flexible with their marketing. Now, taking away that side of things, there are also 4 or 5 real good reasons why you should never even consider buying this compared to this, the T8L, and that is as follows. Number 1, the Radiomaster is a fully proper Express LRS radio that is officially supported by the Express LRS dev team. The project, you can update the firmware on this radio officially via the Express LRS system. Unfortunately, the Cadex radio, whilst using Express LRS, is using a forked version which was neither officially sanctioned by the Express LRS dev team, they neither support or endorse, and in fact have never even been contacted about the fact that this has been created. Secondly, this radio from Radiomaster, whilst it doesn't have a screen, is fully configurable via their own software, their web-based user interface. This radio has no configuration at all. There is no option to change anything on this radio. It literally is as it comes. When it comes to choosing between these, there is also a fundamental difference in quality as well. The gimbals on this radio are much better. These are actually the same gimbals as the AG01 minis. You can put the CNC gimbals on this radio just like you can the Pocket. It is technically the same gimbal, which you can't do on this radio, but more than that, the quality of the gimbals is dramatically different. In the end, and this really doesn't need to be a long conversation, there is no world where you should consider buying the Cadex radio over the 8TL, the T8L, because simply it is a radio in a different league from a quality perspective, from a supporting the Express LRS project perspective, and the fact that it comes from a brand that you can actually trust. Wish I could get 8TL out my head. Yeah, you can put the CNCs in this. This takes the CNC gimbals. Such a cheap. Only 8TL in the end. Yeah, I haven't seen the Beta FPV radio. They're going to have to go a long way to beat this thing. I can tell you that. They're going to have to go a very long way to beat this thing. The one thing I hope came across in my review is how solid this is. It feels like the DJI radio. Honestly. It feels like the DJI radio. It really, really does. Yeah, sorry, the Nano, not the mini gimbals. Yeah, the Nanos. Sorry, I can't remember what the power output is. I think it's 100 milliwatts. I need to remember. I can't remember. Would be nice if it could store the sticks. What, in the back? 100 milliwatts, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, look, there's a lot to like on this radio. And the switch, honestly, the switches and buttons between this compared to this, it's not even funny how far they are apart, honestly. And that's not me being negative because it's Cadex. It's me telling you how far apart these freaking radios are. They are so far apart, it's crazy. It is crazy. Now, this week, I have also received this thing. Now, I am in the middle of doing a review on this. For those who don't know what this is the Wally FPV Eagle 2. What a really cool little 04 Pro drone this is. Haven't flown it yet. Built it up on the bench today. Really, really cool little 04 Pro quad. That's very cool. Very, very cool indeed. Weight, as you see it here, just under 71 grams with the 04 Pro air unit. Recommended flight battery is 3S. Honestly, it's such a great little design as well. Really, really cool little drone. New company, I've never heard of them before. Wally FPV. For those who haven't seen them. They've also got some other products as well, which is quite cool. Oh, yeah, it's aluminium frame on the top. We'll have a look on the website in a second. Yeah, it's got an aluminium top frame over the top. Yeah, your camera's up front. But really cool. I really like it. I've just built it up. I got it without the 04 Pro air unit. They sent me just sort of the quad ready to fly. And they sent me a frame kit as well. Yeah, really cool. Really cool. They also do some other stuff on their website. They've got an 04 Pro Naked kit, which will take the weight down even more. So they've got that, which will help reduce the weight. And they've got some other drones as well. They've got the Lightning as well as the Starship. No protection for the camera, but you're always going to be compromised to a point. Cool, though. Very, very cool. The battery goes on the bottom, and they include a TPU bracket for it. So you have a TPU clip that goes into the bottom of the frame, like this, which they include. And that goes in that side over here, like that. Once you get it clipped in, there you go. That goes like that. And then the battery slides in. I haven't actually pushed the battery into this yet. The battery slides in. Just like that. Which is quite cool. And that's the size battery they recommend. 3S, 380 milliamp hour, 400 amp hour. Look, it's not designed for smashing up. I think it's a flying quad, not a bando basher. Ejection in minus, yeah. I don't think I'd class it as a bando basher. Put it that way. But yeah, very cool indeed. I also got these. Now, these have been sent to me from the guys at It's FPV. And I was a bit confused at what these were when these first came in. Because I was like, well, what is this? And what it is, actually, before there's no point me showing you in the box. Let me go to It's FPV because it's on their website. And it's easier to show you it on their website than what it is. And it is an 04... what do they call it? They call it CNC kit. So if I search for CNC, it's an 04 Pro CNC kit. And it's a replacement front piece and back piece for the 04 Pro camera. So the idea is that you can dehouse the 04 Pro camera and place it into this metal piece at the back. And then it's got these metal brackets at the back and these plastic molded pieces at the front. And you can see here, it helps you cut the weight down. So you've got 10.4 grams as a standard camera, 8.5 grams without the front shroud, or 10.7 with the front shroud and the CNC. So it actually goes a bit heavier, but the hood on for freestyle impacts and hood off for weight saving. But the idea is, as they show here, that it offers some modular protection, replaces the fragile stock plastic latches with secure aluminium housing, preventing the lens and sensor assembly from separating or ejecting during crashes. So, you know, it's a structural fix for the 04E unit. I hadn't seen anything like this before. Quite interesting. So the idea is that it basically makes the camera stronger. Basically. And it's compatible with the 03ND lens filters, which is handy. So, but it's also a nice mounting kit if you want to take the weight down on your 04 Pro E unit. So that's quite cool. Bring the chat back up. Yeah, 03, not 04 mounting. Yes. Just catching down on the stream. Chat. Hope everyone is well. Please do give us a like. Don't forget to that. Super chats are always welcome, but not required. What's the price in the UK on the Antigravity? We don't know the pricing yet. There's no official pricing for this product. No one knows. The official pricing hasn't been released. We'll have to wait until launch. No one knows at all. I hope Amazon will have them, because that's where I'd like to order it from. Yeah, look, RF link-wise on the Antigravity, if you want my money, I bet you it's Wi-Fi. My money would go on Wi-Fi. I haven't got tea today. My wife has decided she no longer likes me. And clearly, I no longer get cups of tea. So yeah, I haven't got anything tonight. We'll move on to HDZero in a minute. I reckon it's Wi-Fi. It'll be Wi-Fi or Artisan. You got to remember, Insta360 is a Chinese company, so you got to think about it from a Chinese perspective. So, are they likely to have spun their own silicon? No. So their options are Wi-Fi. And when I say Wi-Fi, I mean any form of off-the-shelf Wi-Fi chipset with customization, potentially. I'm not talking about 802.11b and them. I'm talking Wi-Fi derived. If you want my money, it'll be Wi-Fi derived. Or it could be Artisan. We could see the Artisan chipsets reappear. Because there ain't a lot of options. There just are not a lot of options out there. Look, you've got to take into account, Wi-Fi can do quite well in a customized link. The big problem with Wi-Fi is when you start introducing packet retries and, you know, interesting, something I've noticed. Noticing a lot of that footage on the Antigravity, it's always been out the way. It's not been in built-up congested areas. Makes you wonder. And that guy who did the range test did it from a set of mountains, and it wasn't particularly impressive, even in that location. You know, Wi-Fi in a completely uncongested area with no traffic could do no problem range. It's really when it comes to congested areas, and that is going to be the key. But yeah, my money is Wi-Fi, but let's wait and see. Silly money they've spent a lot on marketing. They have spent an awful lot of money on marketing. Yeah, like the wife works in some situations. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, so look, we're going to have to wait and see. We really, really are. Right, next we're going to move on to TBS. So I don't have any of these because Trappy clearly hates me anymore. If you're listening, Trappy, hello, where is the stuff on my bench? You sent it to Lee, you didn't send it to me. So yeah, where is it? No, it's all right. Lee's got it. Lee's had a nice play with it. But poor old Ian here on his own, no, he's been left out. So anyway, Trappy and the team have released some new UAV CAN stuff. Drone CAN. I'm only one of the first people to have ever even frickin' played with Drone CAN and UAV CAN. I'm only the person that has probably the first ever content on YouTube about UAV CAN and Drone CAN. I'm the first person to have actually tested hardware about it, made videos about it, but don't worry, don't bother. So, TBS have released some Drone CAN modules. For those who don't know what Drone CAN is, it was UAV CAN. It's basically CAN bus for drones. If anyone knows about it, there's a whole political situation. Because I'm the one who's known about it for so long, I actually know about the political situation around Drone CAN, UAV CAN, and how it ended up actually being a project where version 0.9 was the original release, which isn't officially supported by version 1.0 onwards, and then ended up getting migrated in through Tridge and all of the others in ArdraPilot, and now is actually called Drone CAN rather than UAV CAN like it used to be. But the products are a GPS, there is a hall sensor available, we have a 20 amp power supply available, we have an airspeed sensor available and an airspeed sensor pro, as well as a Drone CAN splitter and PWM board, or what is officially usually known as a node with a PWM board. However, it's nice to see TBS move into doing some UAV CAN based products. For those who don't know, UAV CAN isn't supported in Betaflight or iNav at the moment, but it is fully supported in ArdraPilot and PX4. It's been around a long time in ArdraPilot. If you sort of went on YouTube and searched for Drone CAN, right, you might see some content on it going back quite a long time, especially if you say search for not Drone CAN, UAV CAN as it was before. If I search for UAV CAN, oh, there's a video from 4 fucking years ago where I actually demonstrated and showed you how to use the very first servos based on CAN in FPV and drones. Who would have thought I would have made content? Look how slim I was back then. Who would have thought I would have made content like that all that time ago? A complete overview of how to even use it. But yes, so it's been around quite a long time, has drone CAN. It really has. But look, I think it's really good to see TBS release some drone CAN rated products. The GPS is quite interesting, to say the least. Truth is, it's not really today for the average user. But it's good to see. Good to see indeed. That's a nice big GPS module too. Very nice for custom applications. Yeah, it is. Look, drone CAN, for those who don't really understand, see, the problem is we have today now predominantly settled on UART, okay? So UART has become the standard, but the problem with UART is you need one port per device. We did try to use I2C, or I squared, but the problem with I2C is it is horribly affected by noise in a build. And this is why everyone moved away from I2C. The benefit of I2C is that you could have multiple devices on the same bus. However, the downside to I2C was the fucking thing would just fall over left, right, and center. In most bigger UAV scenarios. I2C is phenomenal in controlled environments, hence the reason pretty much every flight controller in the past did put your gyro and stuff on I2C or SPI as you find it now. But the big problem with I2C has always been noise affecting the signal quality. And this is where CAN comes in, because CAN bus is hugely fault tolerant, as someone has just said. I2C for done for noise, yeah. And it's the reason it's used when it's in a twisted pair, and as long as it's in a twisted pair, and if you see here, there is a reason why that cable is twisted, because you have to have CAN high and low, and you have your power, ground, high and low, and it's hugely fault tolerant. The advantage to CAN is it's a node-based system, so you can address each item differently on the bus, and it's fairly straightforward. For those who've been around, it was hugely painful to use in the early days in Ardra Pilot. I have a number of videos on CAN. That's the UAV. There should be UAV CAN GPS setup as well. I've done videos on Ardra Pilot using GPS. Don't know where they're hiding, because they should be there. CAN Ardra Pilot. I should have a few videos on this. They're definitely there somewhere. They're in my how-to guides, which are buried somewhere on it. Oh, I2C over wire is a big no-no. RS485 would have been nicer. Yeah, exactly. For those of RS485 is hugely fault tolerant. Yeah, it gets expensive, and yeah, when you get into that territory, it's the good news is it's nice to see this kind of product from TBS. It really is. You ain't putting it on your average drone every day. FPV doesn't really need to worry about it. But if you're into building very big aircraft and you want customized components, this is where it is. Okay. Not that I'm bitter about not receiving them at all. I'm just saying, like, I'm only the person who's fucking first of all talked about UAV can and drone can. I even have a video on what happened to UAV can and drone can. I am bloody sure I do. I'm sure I have a video on drone and the politics of it. I'm sure I have a video. Drone can. I even have a tattoo of it on my ass, someone said. Yeah. It might be called UAV can. I probably need to rename those videos. Because it was called UAV can. I definitely have videos on this. I know I have videos. I know I have. Oh, there's another. Here too, UAV can setup. Here's another video on it. That's Mr. Hands back then. Oh, that's a bad one. Shall we, how long ago? That's 6 years ago. This will be a bad one. Let's see, just... guys over at Profi CNC, and in this video I'm going to show you how to set it up with the Cube Autopilot on CAN bus. Now, CAN bus support has only recently been added in both ArdraPilot as well as Mission Planner as well. So originally when these first released you weren't able to use it, but it is now there to be able to do. So what we're going to do is walk you through what you need to do to get it working, because there are some settings you need to change and it's not quite as plug and play as using it with I2C, as well as show you how to update the firmware on the unit as well. Now, before I get started, I just want to thank the guys over at 3DXR in the UK. They are a big Profi CNC dealer. They supply the... That MacBook is the one I left out in the rain. I left it out in the rain, in the garden. I was doing some testing on a quad late at night, and I was in and out just before bed. And I was in and out, in and out, in and out. And I ran out, dragged the drone back in, and forgot to bring the laptop in, and then left it out. Mr. Hands Days, this is. Well, you also need to change the switch. To do this, you would simply remove the 3 screws from the back of the GPS. Removing that screw will allow you to swap just the cable, but it won't. There, forgot. I turned that off. Next, we're going to talk about HDZero, because this week HDZero have released, well, that's wrong. This last couple of weeks, HDZero have announced and released a few products. And there's quite a lot going on in the HDZero world, some of it quite interesting as well. Now, I'm going to do this in sort of time order because it's been in a little bit of time. The first thing is this. They have released a NDAA compliant VTX for HDZero that takes HDMI input. Now, I asked Carl about making one of these ages ago, and I'm sure he told me no. However, they have now done it. Now, just to be clear, this is only available under their NDAA product lines. That is compatible with the existing goggles, the non-NDAA goggles, because there are multiple modes. But the VTX is only available under the NDAA line, and unfortunately that comes with a price tag of $300. Now, this is an ultra-low latency VTX with HDMI input. It supports either 720p 60, 1080p 30, or 1080p 24 frames a second input modes. It adds 1 millisecond of latency, adjustable power up to a watt, 5.8 gigs, and it has a micro HDMI input. What is actually incredibly interesting about this is that you can also use it as a relay with the HDZero VRX. Because in theory, you can take the HDZero VRX output, plug it into the input and this, and retransmit this on a second channel. So this can actually be used to create a relay of HDZero, and I am going to pay to get one of these in to do that, because I think that's an incredibly interesting video, like we have seen on some of the other products. Probably the simplest relay there is out there. You would literally hook a HDZero VRX up to the transmitter, shove one on channel 1, one on channel 8, and off you go. And that is quite cool in itself. They also say it can be used for wireless PC streaming. $300 for wireless PC streaming. Sorry guys, that's not going to happen. Camera to monitor link. Transmit from a DSLR, cinema or security camera. Yes. Custom vision system. Pair with Raspberry Pi. Yeah, you can do all sorts with it. Now, here is what is interesting, because you do start to hear about some of the quirks to how HDZero transmits the image. It's designed for natural, real-world imagery, not static text or spreadsheets. When used for live cinematic content, it provides seamless, realistic video experience with unmatched responsiveness. I wonder how garbage it looks with a spreadsheet, because HDZero uses this black arts joint source channel coding we don't really know a lot about. Very cool though. Very, very cool. I'd like to see it with my own eyes. So look, I definitely want to get one of these VTXs in. Ryan has a video about it. I'm going to turn off the audio. Sorry, Ryan. I can't. I'm not putting the audio up a minute. Why can't I? Oh, wow. Make it open there then. Thank you.
There's
Ryan
a lot of possibilities for the DiviMath video system.
Can't mute Ryan. There we go. So he talks about it a bit there. And he's got a Raspberry Pi on it at the moment there, and he's just showing that. So look, I think it's very, very cool. Very, very cool. Its pricing is complicated. Someone said small cinema outfits might like it. I think DJI Transmission SDR is probably better value than that at this point. What's DJI SDR transmission? What's a kit cost on the DJI SDR transmission today? I don't know. Come on, give it to me. Oh God, where is it? Oh, come on, DJI. SDR. There you go. 519. So it's still cheaper than that, but by the time you bought everything. Yeah, but this is encrypted. DJI's is encrypted anyway. DJI's is fully encrypted. That is, you know, SDR transmission is still. But look, if you're already into HDZero, I think it gives a few cool options. He's got it connected up there to a mirrorless or an SLR, whichever one it is. So you can connect it like an A6400. So, look, it has some very cool options. I think it is a great thing to see. I wish they'd also release it under the HDZero brand without the NDAA encryption. I'd also like to do a teardown of the NDAA VTX, if I'm honest. Yeah, for sure. Look, there are absolutely some real nice options. What you can now do, you know, from a HDZero perspective, here would be a cool feature for HDZero, would be to integrate into the HDZero goggles a HDZero transmitter that can also transmit on a dedicated channel and on one of the lower band channels that you can then pick up on another receiver. That would be a great feature for the HDZero goggles, is to have the ability, which you can do with this on HDMI. You know, HDZero though, look, it would be interesting to see how a normal camera looks over this. Something like I'm recording this on today. That would be very cool to see. So look, I'm going to order one in. Are they in stock? I don't even know. Are they actually in stock at the moment? Oh, it says I can order one. Which is cool. So, yeah, look. Really, really nice to see. Very cool. Very, very cool. I like that a lot. Now, alongside this, HDZero have also announced a few other things. They have a radio controller coming. We don't know a lot about this, other than it appears to have a small OLED display. I guess it's going to be Express ELRS, and I guess it's going to be Edge TX. We don't know much for sure. Bit of a strange choice for HDZero to get into making a remote, but it looks like they're going to do it, so will be cool to see when it comes out. No idea on price point. I guess it's something they want to offer for the pilots. No Edge TX, $30 to $35, which includes batteries. Okay. I wonder why they're getting into this. Probably going to make an RTF kit. Yeah, it makes sense. But I still don't get why. Hopefully they're buying it in, not having to manufacture it themselves, because it really doesn't make sense for HDZero to waste their time manufacturing a radio. It really doesn't. And then alongside that, HDZero have released their own goggles battery. Now, this is a goggles battery adapter. It isn't actually a battery itself. If we go on to the page, it is a battery case. So it is bring your own 18650s, but it takes two 18650s. Oh no, sorry, 21700s, not 18650s. My fault. I had my head on radio, which is this, not that. It takes two 21700s. And it also has a built-in SD card reader. And when you think about that, first of all, you go, eh? But when you hear what they're saying, it somewhat makes sense. Number one, you can use it in SD. It's not bring your own in the US. Okay, yeah. When I was looking over here, it was bring your own batteries. It allows you to connect it to your computer, which will charge it and allow you to offload your footage. But it also gives you sort of a location for a spare card. I get it, but I don't. I think it's interesting. But I also... Look, I love HDZero. I think they do a great job. I don't... The bit I don't get... I love all the AIO stuff. I love all of the stuff they've done. What I don't get is a battery case and a remote controller. What I'd like is more, okay. Am I going to say a V2 system? It's been a long time. We would all like to see a V2 system. I think they're good fillers, but I need more. As someone has rightly said, a VTX with a DVR on board. If you take into account, HDZero don't have a single VTX with onboard DVR. A single VTX with an onboard DVR. I get it. We always like more. But I'd like to see more from the FPV system. What I like, and I really like, as I've shown, is that HDMI VTX. That I like. The HDMI VTX. Stuff like that is very cool. We haven't seen much development in recent times on the HDZero side of it. The HDZero goggles 2 are phenomenal. What they've done with those goggles is brilliant. But I'd like more on the air side now. is what I'd like. You know, that's my only criticism. Is where is, you know, where is the digital stuff? But very cool nonetheless. I think the VTX has a lot of interesting options. The VTX really does have a lot of interesting options. What is their best current VTX and cam combo? It's the Freestyle version 2 alongside let's find the cameras. Micro version 3. That is the pinnacle of HDZero from an image quality perspective. You know, we're still very much in this world. Yeah, look, I think we'd all like to see more from HDZero RF side. You know, I'd love to see a version 2 or even a version 1.5. It's, you know, yeah, well, HDZero at the moment can only do 1080p 30. That, which is, I think, a processing overhead. You know, I guess Carl is reluctant to break compatibility, but he's going to have to at some point. At some point, he's going to have to break something. You know, if you think about how far along HDZero has come, you know, HDZero has been around since 2018. It's quite an old system now. That hasn't technically changed. Even Frostbite technically worked with HDZero. It hasn't changed much. It's the same underlying technology. Are they actually doing anything with the larger FPV? I don't know. I think it's definitely a quicker goggle, and I think it allows him to do a bit more stuff. But I don't know if there's a great deal of change. Whether that can be leveraged in the future or not, I don't know. Right, guys. So, that's that. That's that. Did I have anything else in the doc list? No, I didn't. So, now it's time for questions and answers. Yeah, I think you're probably right, Xantum. The new goggles sort of rule out a version 2. Yeah. Agreed. I think at least pushes it out a bit. If you've got any questions, now's the time to put them in the chat. With regards to everything else, I'm finishing a couple of videos this week, which I took a bit of time off. I took a week and a half, 2 weeks, stopped making content for 2 weeks. I just didn't feel like it, if I'm honest. My Ascent VTXs from Cadex have shipped, so fuck knows what will actually arrive. We'll have to wait and see. But I have ordered them. I now have a very simple stance on Cadex. On every video for Cadex on this channel, there is a statement now attached that I do not endorse or recommend products by that brand. That doesn't mean I'm not going to, where I decide to, make content or talk about them, but I still, regardless of the product, I will no longer recommend that brand because of their behavior, regardless of what they do, unless there is a fundamental change in how that brand behaves, including its staff. I will not recommend their products. I've been very vocal about how I feel they're behaving towards the community. One of their members of staff replied on Discord, and again, it's more gaslighting and being the victim rather than actually understanding that, look, they are a brand. They're not our friends. They're not your mates, my mates. Cadex aren't doing, or DJI, or Radio Master for that matter, or HDZero. Whilst there are, and there will be, and there may be amazing people who work for them, who may even own the businesses. So take HDZero. Carl is amazing. I have every second in the world for that man. But I would still be critical of HDZero if I felt they weren't behaving in the right way. And a brand's job is to strip you of as much money as they can. Now, a company may do that whilst trying to do the right thing. There are many companies that make products with the goal of making the best products they can that help their users. Yet their goal, though, is still to sell those products. They are still, at the end of the day, a business who are there to get our money. And as a result of that, they should all be treated as such. And Cadex, as a company, as a brand, are a company who have behaved numerous times. It's not even once. It goes back to the lying about, allegedly lying, smoke screening, we're working on MSP display OSD when they were talking about the Vista. We're going to encrypt the camera. Remember, I was the one that called them out on saying we're going to encrypt the camera, and DJI were the ones that then messaged me and said, hey, we know nothing about this. This is bullshit. They ain't encrypting the camera because they ain't able to. It ain't happening. And then Cadex responded by saying there's been confusion. There's then all of the other lies and smokescreen and BS and marketing nonsense. And look, there isn't anyone, including me, that wants them to fail. It's not about wanting Cadex to fail. I want Cadex to freaking listen and try to understand their problems and work with the community. And when I say work with the community, start listening to the feedback. Stop making promises to sell products you can't keep. Replaceable module. We've got it now. Here is a great example. When I kicked off about Cadex 3 months ago, what did they do? They pushed out a bunch of posts going, oh yeah, oh by the way, Moonlight 2 and GT2 are coming. So now they have finally sent the GT2 to testers. They're only this week on Facebook asking for feedback about the Moonlight 2. They haven't even, it's not even a freaking product yet. So again, this gaslighting, this, we're not the bad guy. Right. I don't care if they think they're good or bad. Their behavior is what dictates it. Don't make promises you have no intention or can't keep. And if you have to break a promise, come and talk to us and tell us why. Because here, this tells you everything, right? I put quite a, in many ways, nasty, difficult post on their Discord. And I did have a go at some of the testers. I'm not going to hide from that. I did. And I still stand by every word that I said in that post. Okay? Sorry, guys, but I mean it. Be careful what you're being used about. And the reason I'm saying it is, I've been where you are. I've been there with DJI. I've been there with others. Them hiding behind you. Here's a point. When was the last time Caddx told anyone anything? Other than this odd marketing stuff. All of the information that comes from Caddx is coming from their testers, which is completely deniable for them because it doesn't come from them. Caddx are never communicating directly with people about the issues. The only real direct communication we had was that post on their, oh crap, we're not going to do what we said we're going to do. Here's though where it fundamentally shows. On their own Discord, their staff member came on to have a go at me after my post. That was the first time I've seen a member of Caddx staff post on there that I can remember. Yet, they came on there accusing me of all sorts and all of the gaslighting and the nonsense. Yet, they didn't do one post to answer a question to their own users, to their own purchasers. They haven't put any effort into supporting their own community. All they have ever done on there in one post was come on and said how bad I am. Yet there are people on there asking questions about products every day, asking for help every day, support, information. They don't even answer. Their only interest is themselves or trying to protect themselves. And for Caddx to say they care about the community, it's BS. Because if they cared, they would have support people, staff on the Discord forums, on the Facebook groups, answering questions continuously, talking to people. Hey, you've said you're not making this module for the goggles. I'm upset. I bought the goggles. I'm a user. I bought the goggles. I'm not happy about this. Right. You need to get in the mix and start talking about it and say, right, okay, look, here is the reason why. Here is the technical reason. We don't have a technical reason why they can't make the module. I can tell you why there isn't a technical reason, because there bloody isn't one. There is no reason they can't make the module. The reason they're not doing it is because it was never viable in the first place, because it was never an upgradable module. It was never a realistic proposition. It was nonsense from the beginning. And that is the problem. So until Caddx change their behavior and start acting like what they say, hey, we're here for the FPV community, buy this new product. Hey, we're here for the community, but hey, we're going to give you this Q&A with a load of nonsense. Get involved, start talking. And look, I don't control what people buy. My stance, I can talk about a product and say, hey, I think this is good for these reasons, but I still now fundamentally cannot recommend a product from that brand because of their behavior towards me and their behavior towards the community. And the sad fact in all of this is it could have been fixed so easy. I don't care if they send me stuff. This is, before anyone says it as well, Caddx have been extremely generous at times to me on this channel. I am not going to deny that. Caddx have sent me numerous sets of goggles. They even sent me a set to give away. That didn't work, if you remember, which I didn't even blame them for. It happens. It's just typical. But Caddx had been very generous to me, as has HDZero, as has Radio Master. I treat them all the same. Everyone gets the same feedback, the same open and honest treatment. And you either accept it or you don't. I'm not difficult to work with. What I won't stand, though, is lies and BS. Here's what's quite funny, and I'll leave it with this. I no longer on this channel recommend products by Cadex FPV. That doesn't mean I won't review them, and that doesn't mean I won't tell you my opinion on it, but that opinion will come with a caveat as due to the previous behavior of this brand. I don't recommend them. As a result of this, I cancelled my affiliate scheme with Cadex. I cancelled it. Yet I am still receiving emails every couple of days saying my link has been used again. I'm receiving commission. They've even still paid me, even though I've cancelled the program. You can't even cancel something with them and it go to plan. It just sums the situation up. I logged into the website and said, close my account. I closed my account. I can no longer log into the website, yet I am still receiving emails and they still paid me the affiliate. They might cancel it now I've said that, and I'm fine with that. No, sorry, it's relevant. I missed your question. What was it? Sorry. Any of the 04 camera cases, split mine in a crash. Also, best glue to put the lens back to the PCB. The lens to the PCB on 04 is ridiculously glued. You can't use super glue because it's near glass. Tandem. I can't really think. You're probably going to... I'm not sure I can happily recommend a glue. Yes, I've got the new 04 cameras from Flywheel. I have them here. I've done a video. I just need to fly them now. I've done a complete lens mod myself. My God, getting that lens off is a freaking nightmare. If I was you, I'd buy the camera, is my advice. I can't really think of many 04 housings off the top of my head. There's a few different CNC ones out there. Yeah, something like B7000. Yeah, you need something just to try and hold it on. You almost want to hold the lens to the board, not the lens to that area. New DJI tracker, like Hover X1, is the new FCC filing. That doesn't make sense. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. And the online image suggests it's a drone. Why would DJI call a tracker that? That doesn't make sense. The leaked image looks like the arm of a drone. Why would DJI call it... I could be wrong, but Lito X1 for a tracker... That seems a strange name to me. 04 Pro. There aren't that many camera cases out there. The only one I could really think about is that one I showed earlier from It's FPV. There is the It's FPV. I showed this earlier. I've talked about this once. If you were, I don't know if you were here when I talked about it. It's FPV have sent me these, and I talked about it earlier on the channel. I talked about it earlier on. They've got this 04 Pro CNC kit, which is a replacement camera mount. I showed this earlier on the channel. It's this thing here. I don't know if you were here when we were talking about it, because other than this, I can't really recommend anything else. This is the It's FPV one. It's a CNC mount. I literally had it in this week. Yeah, it's there. And you can use it to lighten up the camera. You can take the weight down, or it offers additional crash protection. Where can I post a photo for me? We've seen a picture of a tracker before, but I don't know. A Discord? Are you on Discord? I don't know if you can post on Discord. I can get it. It saves some weight. So there are 3 mode options. The full kit is 10.7 grams. It adds a bit more, actually, but the lightweight mode is... See, there's an image already online on Twitter. Or X, as I should call it. Igor has posted another image. We saw this earlier. Of this, which looks like the arm of a drone. Lito X1, unless it's fake. But this looks like the arm of what it is. You can also message me on Twitter as well if you like Prince. Yeah, I still call it Twitter. There are old leaks of DJI beacons. They've been around for ages. If you're talking about... I don't see DJI calling that a beacon. But I'd like to see this image you're talking about. Yeah, you're going to pay a little bit for... There's like this thing that's appeared, but that's... That you're not going to call that a Lito. Lito is a product name, not an accessory name. If you're talking about that. And that's for the Agra series, I believe. And then there was this thing which was been rumoured for ages. This thing seems to have come and gone and come and gone. Are you talking about this one? Because we've seen the pictures of this thing on and off for months. Because there's been this one that's been roaming around. There's been all sorts. But the Lito looks like Lito X1. I find it hard to believe it's not a drone. And that arm definitely suggests that it appears to be a drone. Yeah, I think it's lightly... It does. The X1 it's an unusual set of naming for DJI. It's a very unusual set of naming. Not common at all. My money is a super budget drone. There should be a link to my Discord in the description. The Lito is It won't be the beacon. DJI don't give accessories names like that. Like if you look at the 04 module, it's the 04 module. It won't be the beacon. It's a drone. It's a product because it's adding a new name. Even the RF specs don't make sense for it to be a beacon. But they've got lots of stuff. You know, there's lots of stuff been... What's interesting is... Yeah, and it looks like a cheap one as well, if I'm honest. I wouldn't be shocked if that's legit. Most stuff that comes from iGo is fairly legit. Yeah, next to the Enterprise controller. Yeah, well, that's for the Agra series. That's not for the Neo. That's out for the Agra series in China. I've seen that before. That remote exists already. I've seen that out for the Agra drones. It's part of their handover kit to be able to hand their drones over between, because they also offer the Oculus. Remember, DJI also offer the OcuSync relay for the Agra series as well, where you can relay 04. Because DJI have the relay module. So people always quite asking me, you know, why don't DJI sell this for FPV? Because they don't want you to have it for FPV. DJI have no interest in you having this for FPV at all. This is about DJI agriculture. And this module is designed to... I don't have the standalone Ascent VTXs yet. I have the one that's in this quad, which I was going to rip out. But it's the same thing. That's all they're shipping is what comes in this quad. It's the same thing. But I'm going to wait for those ones to turn up. DJI have lots of little products for their Agra series of drones. They've got some really cool stuff. I don't think people realise how much cool stuff DJI have at times. They got loads of cool stuff that never leaves China. Really incredible bits of kit these are. Monsters of product. LiDAR. Millimeter wave radar. And pentavision system. Some just... How's Ascent looking for FPV? Latency is the big problem. Latency is too high on it at the moment. In my latency test, which I've already shown, it's higher than any other system at 60 frames a second. It's too high. What we don't know yet is that because of the goggles or the VTX side. That's the issue. For a 60 frames a second system, it's 50 to 60 milliseconds. Will that matter to most people? Probably not. Most average flyers? Probably not. You're not going to be bando bashing with it. It also has a lot of horrible stutters. Which need fixing. Lots of horrible stutters that need fixing. Look at the size of that battery. 41 amp hour. Yeah, look, Cadex have already said that, look, we already know there's an Ascent industry products coming. So they've got 60 frames a second VRX and a 60 frames a second Ascent Pro VTX. We already know about them. I think that will be the key. When we get the VRX and the Ascent VTX industry, looking at the latency on that will be interesting, because you're then taking out the display issues away from the goggles, and then you, in theory, you should have raw HDMI pass through, and we'll have to try it. It certainly, look, I said this in my review, Ascent is better at the start than Avatar was at the start. Yeah, we spoke about the HDZero battery pack earlier. Ascent is better than where that was. You know, Ascent is starting from a better place than Avatar HD did. But what the concern is Avatar HD launched with 100 frames a second mode and low latency. Whilst the latency was a bit all over the place, it's okay. But this system, there's nothing in this system that's launched with 100 frames a second. Even this new industry VRX doesn't have 100 frames a second. It literally says it supports 50 and 60 frames a second only. There is no 100 frames a second on Ascent at all. Doesn't exist right now. So it is starting from a latency perspective in a worse position, and that is worrying. Avatar launched with low and high latency mode, just like DJI. The fact this doesn't have a 100 frames a second mode is concerning. Yeah, but what does this mean for the future? Perhaps, look, the truth is this. Perhaps Ascent will never be the replacement for Avatar, and it will always be a low-cost, cinema industry-based product. And Cadex will end up having to stay with the current expensive Artisan chipset for Avatar, or maybe spend the money on one of the newer, more like SDR chips from Artisan, and keep Avatar more expensive. Perhaps that's where it goes. Look, to be fair to Cadex, Cadex have never said Ascent is a replacement for Avatar. They've actually said the opposite. Avatar has to get replaced at some point. That chipset cannot last forever. Remember, Cadex don't own the technology. Cadex are buying the chipsets from Artisan. Artisan don't even list that chipset anymore. It is end of life from Artisan's perspective. Now, does that mean Cadex can't buy it? No. Does that mean there might not be 100,000 of them sitting in trays? No. Let's be realistic. 100,000 of those chipsets probably is 3 to 4 years worth in Avatar, in FPV. You know, I can't imagine Cadex are selling that many VTXs. FPV is not that big. You know, if there were 100,000 units on the shelf, Cadex, I'm just going to get myself a drink. If there were 100,000 VTX chipsets on the shelf, Cadex, that probably would do 3 or 4 years. The alternative is they go to Artisan and say, can you do a tape out of that chipset again? Artisan can say yes, and then it's at what cost? What isn't clear, though, is where Artisan's future lies, because they've put their future into the IR8030. When you go to Artisan, right, and look at Artisan, when it comes to their AR-Link series of products, okay? So Artisan, the company behind the chipset that is used, right, in their AR-Link series of products, What is the top chipset they are recommending? God, they have a slow website. Bearing in mind, I'm not convinced they really update this. The top chipset. Oh, look. It's what's used in Ascent. The AR8030 series. Artisan is not Atheros. They are different. But this is the only chipset they're listing under their AR Link system. There's nothing else here. They're actually called Cool Chip, but it's Artisan is the brand name. Now, they do have their other SoCs, their Edge SoC products. But it doesn't appear in any of these to have RF. See, the AR9481, suitable for applications, robot vacuum cleaners, and AR and VR. I wonder what chipset DJI are using in their robot vacuum. No, this doesn't have RF. This doesn't have RF. This doesn't have RF. These don't have RF, you see. So it's hard to know. They're all excluding basebands. So Artisan have changed what their game is. So anything to do with RF is going to have to be based around the 8030. So we're going to have to wait and see. Well, yeah, it's a split chip with the 8030 anyway, because you've got to have the 8030, you've got to have the video side. It's always got to be split now. What there doesn't appear to be from Artisan is a new version of the AR9201 that we had, which had the main chipset and the RF on board. That they don't seem to be doing that anymore. That doesn't mean they won't, and that doesn't mean there might not be something we don't know about. Because again, it's all speculation. We don't know for sure. It's, yeah, you know, you know, Artisan talk a lot about their systems, and they do, and what it can do. Wireless image transmission solutions. But they also have some stuff here, you see. So there is some other stuff here under the hood that they don't talk about. They don't talk about FPV anymore, which is quite interesting. They've like removed all talk of FPV from their website, which is quite funny. And then you've got dedicated wireless baseband. They may even build something out for Cadex if Cadex throw enough money at it. Who knows? Who knows? So, just catching down on the chat. Guys, it's static latency, HDZero, good reasons. Guys, is static latency on HDZero a good reason to switch to HDZero, even for a good average pilot? No bando, just parks. Look, HDZero has the lowest latency, period. End of, non-negotiable. What I would say is this. If you want to know, go and get yourself a cheap analog camera, if you can, or an analog drone. Fly analog on a good set of goggles. Do you feel the difference in latency? If you don't worry about it. If you do, then consider HDZero, because HDZero is giving you analog-like latency, if not lower. The Nano 90 on HDZero is lower than any analog camera, period, anyway, because an analog camera is 60 frames a second. So if you take an analog camera, it's going to take 16.6 milliseconds to read in and read out a full frame without any airtime latency. Not that there is airtime latency in analog, but you've then got to take into account display delivery latency, because the massive difference, even if you have a great analog camera that doesn't hold the image and spits it straight out, your display latency may be an issue. You can even get a frame of latency, so 16 milliseconds of latency, even at goggles side. That can happen. I can feel the difference between O full normal and O full race. O full race is about 18 milliseconds to the first pixel, mind. Just remember, that's not full frame, that's first pixel. You got to take that into account, just how far ahead HDZero is. So DJI original FPV and O4 race mode on O4 Pro with goggles 3 is about 17 to 18 milliseconds to the first pixel. HDZero is 2 milliseconds to the first pixel and 14 milliseconds to the full frame. That's how fast HDZero is. So DJI 04, and I have this on a chart. It's so much faster. It's not even funny how much faster it is. Have I got the chart here? Where is it? The big one. When you start looking at it, it's not even funny. Let me open up my latency chart. Probably in the Protoss file. No. Should be there. Do I have to go and get the big one out? Oh, I'll have to open the file. HDZero is so fast, it is insane. It's not even funny how far ahead HDZero is when it comes to latency and, well, latency. Let me put it, I've got to put it on the 4K monitor because this. So this chart is a good one to show, but it isn't the full story because HDZero is actually quicker than this in some scenarios. So this chart, I'm just going to turn myself off a moment. Actually, no. Let's keep it here. So this is HDZero at 60 frames a second. This isn't even at 90. In 90 frames a second, this changes to 14 milliseconds. Basically, it's the same, except that is 14 milliseconds instead of 17 milliseconds. So here you can see DJI, on average, between sort of 20 milliseconds and 18 milliseconds. Talking 17 to 20 milliseconds for the first pixel on DJI, but 30 milliseconds to the full frame. Whereas HDZero on standard 60 frames a second is 17 milliseconds. And HDZero 90 is 14 milliseconds. No, I don't have analog on purpose because analog is highly dependent on the camera choice and goggle choice. Analog is quite easy because there is no system latency on analog from an RF perspective. So you have camera latency and you have goggle latency in analog. So analog, we can base things off theoreticals. The best case scenario for analog is 60 frames a second, but it's not frames, it's fields, because remember, analog isn't actually progressive, it's interlaced. So you're actually talking a field, which is every other line, not a frame. However, we'll just stick with what it is. So in theory, you're getting a half frame in analog, at best every 17 milliseconds from the camera, without any ear-side latency, and then you're dealing with goggles latency, which is display latency. Is there a display buffer in image delivery buffer on that side? But however, when you're talking analog, you're talking minimum 17 to 18 milliseconds. Why do you need full frame worth of latency? You can't sync the scan lines on both ends effectively. Full frame is important in the measurement because that is the full image change. So here's a point, like if you take DJI 04 as an example, DJI 04 scans top to bottom. So from a image change perspective, it takes a full 30 milliseconds to deliver that image from the top to the bottom, which is the new image. Analog is highly dependent. The early tests I've done on analog are around 18 to 20, but there are some cameras that are 35, 40 milliseconds. There are, today, not so much, but some of the early analogs, 30 to 40. But the problem with analog is you've got to take into account the goggle, because it's the goggle that's adding the latency. So if you take analog on HDZero, you're talking 17, 18 milliseconds. HDZero goggles. So you've got to remember, on DJI, 18 milliseconds is the point of that first from there to there. It takes 18 milliseconds from something to get from there to there. Analog I've never bothered to publish because it's pretty much 17 to 35 depending on your system. I don't look at anyone else's latency charts because they're not relevant to me. Even if Ross has done the test, it doesn't matter because it's not tested in the same way I test it. So it wouldn't be a correct comparison. Because remember, all of these tests are on exactly the same test method and exactly the same hardware. So they are all absolutely... the number is less important in many ways. What they are is reflective of each one. Where Ascent has a problem is here, because Ascent, unfortunately, vanished. Unfortunately, Ascent, and let me turn myself off, Ascent is all the way up here, look. Now, this is the new Avatar HD test that I've done on the latest firmware because it has gone up in latency a little bit in recent times. But it's really quite stable. But this is the problem with Ascent. If you look at Avatar HD 60 frames a second mode, high latency. Ascent should be the same as that. Your tests are comparable to each other. Yeah, my numbers relate to my own other numbers. Yes, exactly. So it's hard for me to put them up against Ross's. Analog's always been sort of 17 to 20 milliseconds on the best setup. But here's the problem with Ascent. Ascent is right up here. Right up here. Ascent is more like DJI 03 and 04 on 50, 60 frames a second. Or 30 frames a second even. This is the problem with Ascent at the moment. But what we don't know is this the goggles? This could be the Ascent goggles, not the VTX. We don't know yet. We only have one set of goggles and one VTX. Until we get a VRX where I can start testing the goggles versus the VRX, we have no way of knowing, is the problem goggles side or is the problem VTX side? We just don't know. Could this be optimized in firmware? Yes, absolutely. We just don't know yet. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with how Ascent behaves from an RF perspective. I've done my review. It's out there. It's okay. I don't like the stutters. The stutters are junk. The stutters are not great. I'm assuming, Stu, you've seen the stutters as well. My numbers are done on 1,000 frames a second camera with a special rig. I use a 1,000 frames a second camera to get my numbers, and we measure the frames one by one. It's a job that takes absolutely forever. So I use a 1,000 frames a second camera. I bought a camera specifically for latency testing. That was 1,000 frames a second. But I'm assuming, Stu, you got the stutters on it. Look, DJI are... FPV and DJI is complicated. DJI are always going to release something new. Is there anything new on the horizon for DJI? Not that we know, but that doesn't mean it won't come. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It doesn't mean they won't release something, but it's unlikely. Like, there's nothing new on the horizon. DJI is very much, we've released a product, you should be bloody grateful for it, and you will live with what you've got. I don't expect to see DJI do anything new related to FPV anytime soon. This will be it now. There won't be new cameras. They won't do bugger all. The only thing they could do, could they release a standalone 360 camera and VTX? Could they release their own camera and VTX for 360? That is doable. They could. Because in essence, it's not beyond the realms of possibility, let's just say. It would be a hell of a bulky thing to mount, but it depends how much. The one thing I will say about Antigravity is I am absolutely pumping for them to deliver a good product that kicks DJI's ass. Because we need it. We need it, we need it, we need it. We need it, we need it, we need it, we need it now. I hope Antigravity deliver in every way. Because if they don't, as I've said, from a 360 perspective, they've already won on the image quality and the video editing. As long as that freaking drone can fly, And as long as they can make it work and it doesn't have any stupid quirks. Look, I'm not even against that drone having Wi-Fi as long as it's okay. Because I don't need that drone to fly 10 miles with a 360 camera. It isn't for that purpose. I don't have the A1. No, I don't. I've not. They wouldn't send it to me. I would. It is. I'm not worried about its range. I'm not, as long as it can fly far enough. As long as it can deliver in that world, I would then love to see them go up against like a mini drone. Because they can. Because with this platform, they can then spit out a Mini 5 Pro equivalent. Because they've got the Ace series of cameras. They can actually do it. I've not been impressed with what I've seen, the Action 6. I've not really been impressed with it. So I genuinely hope they are able to bring the fight to DJI. That's the truth. Because they need it. Without it, there is Autel on trying. That's for sure. So, let's wait and see. Right, guys. I'm going to wrap this one up tonight. I want to say a big thank you for spending time with me. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. We should be back again, same time, same place next week. And I will speak to you soon.